Chapter 34, Dreading Prolonging Bonds. Stephen and Craig walked past the many houses in the neighborhood with only one more block to go until they reached Kenneth's house, but most importantly, Xavier's house. During the whole hike, Stephen stays focused on his plan after his meeting with Kenneth. Maintaining his respect towards his friend is what really matters first, but he knows a fact that Xavier could use his brother as a weapon against him. "You're aware that his older brother is way better than him?" Craig asked. "Yes, but I know he's gonna tell him about who I really am." Stephen looked at what's in front of him while signing. "If I tell Kenneth his brother's real plan, he would also show him Aquamarine and Ruby." "I know, but at least you're lucky that he's in college instead of home. You're far away from his brother." "He can still call him, or text him at the very least. I'm mostly concerned about the potential of giving Kenneth another day of hanging out like today." Stephen then remembered the area he's been since walking with Bernard and Alexis. He soon witnesses Kenneth's house not too far off in the distance. He knows Kenneth's gonna show him the photo with him hugging Craig, but on the other hand, it's the third house he's gonna go into outside of his old apartment in the neighborhood. "Is there anything I need to know before we go in?" Craig asked. "Well, yesterday we were spied on. Xavier's drones. I'm afraid he's got footage of Connie and Lion. You may be right." As they walked up on the driveway, Stephen took a deep breath. Upon walking up to the front door, he rang the doorbell, as it was answered immediately with Kenneth opening the door. "Stephen," he smiled. "Hey, Kenneth." Kenneth then saw Craig right behind Stephen. "Good thing you brought him along. Trust me, he's not traumatized." As Stephen and Craig entered inside, they noticed Xavier isn't around, but his sister, Charlene, was waiting by the hallway. "This is my sister Charlene." Kenneth closed the front door. "Where's your brother?" "He's in his room," Charlene answered. "FYI, I told him about the meeting and he declined to join," Craig guessed. "Pretty much." Stephen let out a big accent, trying to stay calm. "Let's go in the kitchen and straighten this out." As Kenneth agreed, he took Stephen and Craig to the kitchen where the photo is at. Charlene followed from behind as they all took a seat by the kitchen table. Craig looked at the photo displayed across the table. It still faced down while Kenneth looked at Craig, remembering the time he met him before the capture of the flag battle returned in the creek. "What's your name again?" he asked. "Craig," Craig responded. "If you need to know, my team beat your brother's team." "He told me everything, no need to explain." "He's barely the depressing type when it comes to defeat," Charlene commented. "He's really an apathetic person, is he?" Stephen wondered. "For his age, yes," Kenneth responded as he picked up the picture. "This is the picture." He showed his guests the picture of Stephen with tears on his face hugging Craig. "My brother gave it to me and he told me that I would make another friend, which is you." He pointed at Stephen. Stephen and Craig looked straight at the picture. They remembered what they did at the Tea Timers Club, but with the evidence being fake as clear as day, they were aware Xavier won't be friends with them. "I think it's no surprise that this was serious," Craig spoke as he looked at Stephen in a split second while turning back to the picture. "There would have been a fire going on." "Then why were you crying, Stephen?" Stephen blushed, knowing he learned about Craig's pink eyes when he accidentally launched him against the tree. But he refused to tell his friend the truth. He could have got a concussion, mainly on the back of his head. He was part of a fight and I tried to break up, which... You almost gave him a concussion? Cheyenne guessed. Yes, but it was still an accident. Huh, Kenneth responded while looking at the picture himself. You are a lot more regretful now that I think about it. I'm not really a person who's into violence no matter what it is. Nor do I, at least the kid didn't bleed. You would have been in huge trouble by the kids' parents, Charlene replied. He said it was an accident, Craig filled in. If he did harm me and the other kids, which he didn't, then he would have been banned from the neighborhood. He's never like that. Did your brother ever tell you how he found this picture? Steven asked. He didn't find it. He took a picture of it with his drones, Kenneth answered. Steven closed his eyes, remembering what Steven mentioned about Xavier's drones. He had an obsession with drones because with his talent, he doesn't need to go out to do it himself. That's not really healthy for a kid to... We know, Charlene retorted. Kenneth stayed on topic to give out his answer to Steven. The point is, he never used drones to take pictures. I told him to never use them to invade people's privacy at home, but I never said anything about the creek. Craig knew Xavier's attempts to hide behind his computer screens, but Steven is aware that the creek isn't off limits for people like Xavier, but on the other hand, he knew for a fact Xavier will spy on him again tomorrow once he gets back to the creek. I think I can say in pure honesty, wouldn't it still invade the freedom of the kids at the creek? There's never been a crime in Herkleton that severe, okay? Charlene answered. There was a crime once in a while, but not that serious of a crime. Not even bowling, Kenneth added. Steven turned to the hallway he and Craig came in. Somewhere down the hall, he knows Xavier is waiting for him from his room, and he's not dropping his guard after leaving Craig's house. Is there anything else you want me to know? No. Is it okay if me and Craig talk to him privately in his room? With you two waiting until we get back, Craig added. We're working on hanging out together afterwards. It has to be tomorrow then, because after tomorrow, I'm going back to college, Kenneth responded. As if it wasn't enough, Steven's in a pickle, knowing if he has to hang out with Kenneth, it can't be the day after tomorrow. He stood up from his seat while still putting his focus on Xavier. We can still work on it. Let's go, Craig. Craig got up as he followed Steven to where Xavier's room is. I'm sure if you find a way, I'll do whatever you want me to do. Thanks. Steven looks back with a smile. Once he looked away, his happiness went away as he walked down the hallway. He took his time to find the door that Xavier is behind. Have you ever met him in this house? Only in the living room where he had a sleepover with others, Craig answered, and I know the only people who were allowed here were his team and his ex-friend Maya. His room's not gonna be like anything like... He stopped himself. Homeward, he whispered. But I know he's not like the diamonds. Eventually, he and Craig witnessed a door slightly ajar, with light coming out. Steven slowly pushed the door open as he saw Xavier sitting, looking straight towards him with Aquamarine and Ruby after their defeat. Steven Universe, Xavier replied. Craig Williams. Steven and Quake walked into the room as Steven closed the door behind him. Xavier, Steven responded. Quake told me who you are, everything about me. After all Steven did was shake his head in response. But I learned that you're keeping Aquamarine and Ruby here. Easy for you to learn. Aren't you too satisfied that you beat them with your straight fusion? Aren't you upset? Quake wondered. A little. Just a little tiny bit. Both Steven and Quake looked at each other from the response of the former king. Surprised, Aquamarine spoke. I'm surprised after he picked us up back here with his drones. This alliance has just started, Ruby added. After putting my friend on lockdown, I'm aware it wasn't the end, Steven responded. There's always a beginning and always an end, Xavier replied. I'm sure it won't end until one team comes out on top. Steven awaited for that type of response, knowing the true nature in his mind. You really think this is a war? Or just a battle? Yes, that's what you used to do in the old days, right? Yes, but this is anything but like the old days. That's what I heard from these two, Xavier pointed at the two gems. I'm sure you need to know why I'm doing all of this. As he got up from his chair, Steven then walked up towards him before he spoke a word. You want to go to Beach City and Homeworld, don't you? Xavier closed his mouth with his eyes wide open. What else would I want from you? My first ever fan outside of my home wanted an autograph because I would do that over taking you to Beach City and especially Homeworld. Xavier felt unamused, but he expected a denial from him. You really think I just became a fan of you? You're mostly mutual, but even I wouldn't allow mutuals any special benefits. Kind of like what you've been giving benefits to Quake. He pointed at Quake. Don't act like you're dumb. You know what you've been doing with him. Quake lowered his head while not looking at Steven's expression. What's the matter, Quake? Did you enjoy hanging out with Steven yesterday? Aquamarine asked. Especially the fusion you did with him, Ruby added. What's with the mood swings between you two anyways, Xavier said. You two are like two brothers who can't even have the same positivity when you get the chance. This caused Quake to blush, unable to disagree with Xavier's point. We have unfinished business, okay? He then closed his eyes with the effects in his mind returning. Upon opening his eyes, his pink eyes are in front of Xavier, all the while taking Steven's attention yet again. Oh no, Steven spoke quietly. Inside Quake's vision, he saw Xavier's room as one of the rooms of Homeworld filled with advanced tech. However, when he looks at Xavier, Aquamarine, and Ruby, they remain the same. Xavier walked up to Quake while crossing his arms, not long until turning back to Steven. I don't need to learn you're the reason he has this, Xavier grinned. I didn't know it would actually happen to him, okay? Steven crossed his arms. Quit with your excuses, Steven. Aquamarine flows up next to Xavier. You can't even convince the nearby hospital that you caused him to have that. Besides, Xavier looks straight at Quake's eyes. Does his parents still think you won't be able to fix this on your own? No. I knew it. You may not want me to go to Beach City, but deep down in your pink gem, he poked on his gem through his shirt, and in your heart, you have no choice but to take Quake there, but you're just delaying the inevitable. This caused Steven to give Xavier a serious look as he's done delaying his inevitable stand. At least I am a great friend to him, while you're in an alliance with two gems who will be the last ones you'll ever be great friends towards. Still, anything but nothing. But you know they will never take you to Beach City since there's one way to get there the fastest way. You're gonna tell me? Yes, I will. Lion. He can teleport from place to place, and he'll take you to Beach City in less than a minute. But even he will learn that he'll never take you there. So what's your end goal? Xavier then turned around, looking away from Steven. My end goal is starting an empire on Homeworld. Without a sense of humor in his system, Steven became unamused, while Quake thought Xavier couldn't get any more delusional. You had to be a huge giant and a diamond to do that. Do you even think you stand a chance against anyone there? Quake added. Even I can't do anything that Steven does as a hero. I didn't say I wanted to be a diamond, Xavier said. Wake up, Xavier, Steven retorted. You may have taken control of half of the creek, but that doesn't compare to a planet in space. You can't even take over 1/4 of a planet even if you try. You don't even know how I'm gonna do it. I don't have a bigger team like before, but I know there's a small loophole that turned into a diamond. Steven wished he could figure out what he means despite still keeping his stand. For your information, I never did loopholes when I cleaned up my mother's mess. Then I guess you almost punched Eliza, made you realize you can't own up to clean your own mess. You know, I had to heal mentally over the last 3 months on my own. Why? Is it because you turned into a giant pink Godzilla after you demolished a gem? Steven nearly loses his core, but then Quake walks up to Xavier with his pink eyes still present. Will you just drop it? He shouted. When he turned around, he saw Steven in his monster form, like from yesterday. Just because through my eyes I see him as a monster, he turned back to Xavier. I don't see him as one when people like you get into his head. Really? You can't even protect him knowing he'll put you in more predicaments, Ruby replied. Kind of like us putting you on. Quake interrupted Aquamarine by placing his hand on her mouth. We protect ourselves thanks to our fusion. As he moved his hand out of the way, he looked straight back to Xavier. I don't have a way to form a fusion with him, but as long as I have pink eyes, it's a gift that you're never going to get. Xavier knew Steven gave Quake his power somehow, but no matter what, he'll never get the answer from him. You really think you're the only kid here who can get a fusion handed on a silver platter? Like I said, it's a gift you're never going to get. Steven isn't the only one who can give you a fusion. I know there's a way I can fuse with Aquamarine and Ruby to become a stronger fusion than yours. He then pointed at Quake. You got lucky earlier, but when luck is in our favor, we'll use our own transportation to go to Beach City and Homeworld. Steven's aware that Aquamarine and a fusion with Ruby can fly. While he appreciates Quake joining his stand to protect him, he's afraid the fusion of his two enemies and Xavier would be like. You know, Xavier, he spoke, getting his attention. Fusion isn't something that's handed to you on a silver platter, but I can't deny that your alliance will reach your goal of fusion. Steven, Quake turned around. Quake, let me handle this. As he slightly pushed him out of the way, he looked back at Xavier. You may figure out this loophole on your own, However, you're gonna have to learn the hard way if you ever come to Homeworld. Is it because I'm not like you? Xavier asked. There's only one Steven Universe who can make the only planet outside of Earth a happy planet. If you ever got into outer space, meaning one gem no matter what it is, they won't even agree to start a rebellion. Before, when it was all broken, it was like your reign, but more terrifying when the diamonds are in control. The former king never got dethroned by anyone who's beyond huge. He won't be receiving a photo from Steven of the diamonds themselves, but during his reign, his emotions are anything but feel. I do believe you, but if there's one thing you don't know about me, it's that I'm never scared. Easy for you to say because you don't know when it's appropriate to be afraid when you're defenseless. I don't need to be like every kid to have inside-out emotions. Actually, you do. He's telling the truth, Craig commented. When you think you're gonna do all of this, it makes you think it's all a game to you, but it's not. You think it's easy, but reality makes it hard. I know what I'm doing, Xavier retorted. No, you don't. Just when Xavier is about to push Steven in retaliation, Craig gets back in his way by grabbing his arms. You're never going to be the ruler of Homeworld. Xavier then lanked him on his floor, causing Craig's pink eye vision to blur. Really? Steven reacted. What was that? Kenneth called. I just fell, Craig responded. I'm okay. Steven, are you gonna come out so we can plan out on hanging out tomorrow? Give me a minute, Steven called back. He then turned around while helping Craig back up to his feet, still keeping his attention to Xavier of what he caused. You're not doing yourself any favors. Not like you're doing yourself a favor for each day you stay with Craig, Ruby chimed in. There's no way you can stop us from getting to Homeworld, Aquamarine added. Especially spying and coming in your way when you get back to the creek tomorrow, Xavier finished. As Steven got Craig back up, he figured out a way to not only keep Xavier's drones, but also Aquamarine and Ruby away from the creek. I'm only doing this the easy way, especially for you. He then gets out of Xavier's room, heading straight back to Kenneth. Then finally, Craig's eyes turned back to normal. My pink eyes are going longer than before, he responded. Should it be good luck to you while it lasts? Xavier replied. You wouldn't even like it if I had pink eyes. You probably won't be able to get an ability I got since I was on lockdown. What did you get? A dream where I met the crystal gems. I'm sure Aquamarine told you about them. Yes, I have, Aquamarine said. Trust me, he's better off knowing them just so we can keep our plan away from them. They're not really in my dream, but I know they act smart whenever someone comes their way. So you think your dreams will come true? Xavier replied. Xavier, I don't know if I'm ever going to Beach City or even Homeworld, but if I do, I know I would be friends with the crystal gems. Easy for you to say after the many friends you made in the creek. But remember this. Steven will part ways from you after he brings you back from Beach City, because once you're back to normal, he has nothing meaningful to stay with you, including your friendship. Craig never thought of the day Steven will leave once he's back to normal. He's never going to see him again, including his friends, if he ever meets them. He lowered his head, signing that he couldn't agree more with his enemy he defeated. Exactly, Xavier getting into Craig's face. You better savor all the moments you have with him tomorrow. Your time is running out and we're making sure we ruin one of your best moments. Then Steven entered back inside Xavier's room with confidence in his face. Guess what, Xavier? I'm taking your brother Kenneth to the creek. What? Xavier reacted. You heard me. He's gonna be with me all day tomorrow, doing activities with Craig and his friends. Craig felt relieved that Steven managed to find a loophole for tomorrow, but it won't change the truth Xavier told him. I'm just gonna go straight out the front door. He walked past Steven, leaving Xavier's bedroom. Craig? Steven looked out from Xavier's bedroom. He then looked back to Xavier, still furious with the two gems, forced to stay indoors. What did you say to him? That once you fix him, you'll leave and he'll never meet you again. As if Steven couldn't get enough of Xavier's attitude, he now has to deal with that in Craig's mind tomorrow. I think I've listened to you enough. I'm leaving. You know, this isn't over since you're gonna have to protect your powers from my brother. Before Steven closed Xavier's door after coming out, he gave Xavier one more look. You should at least be thankful I didn't tell your brother about Aquamarine and Ruby hiding in your room. Like he would question gems in the same way kids feel when they see you. They trust me after I heard most of them panicking about them. I know there's more I haven't met, and I'm sure they're gonna tell their parents about it. Oh, we're gonna get caught by the parents, the whole war, Aquamarine taunted. Steven rolled his eyes as he left Xavier's room. So what are we gonna do tomorrow? Ruby asked. I'll think about it. Tomorrow I'm gonna be taking a walk in my red poncho and doing training when I get back. You two just stay in my bedroom all day, Xavier replied. We're so thankful your parents barely clean up here. They don't care about me as much like my brother. As Steven headed out the front door, Kenneth followed him while stopping at his door. Thanks for coming over, he replied. It'll be refreshing to go back to the creek for after so long. It'll be an experience coming back, Steven smiled. I'm growing into it. Great to hear. I'll see you tomorrow. See you tomorrow too. As Steven waved back, Kenneth closed the front door while he and Craig headed back home. Craig kept his head lowered ever since he got out of Xavier's house. Steven knew what he was feeling, but he's not gonna spill the beans just like Xavier did. Craig? Yes, Craig responded. I'm sure things will get better for us tomorrow. I know. Steven didn't like his answer, but he's not gonna have him feel this way all day tomorrow. Craig, he placed his hand on his shoulder while kneeling down. It's gonna be a long time until I leave. It's just the more you're around. He then looked at him face to face. The more genial you're becoming, even after anything bad happened. Yes, I just haven't felt this way since you came here. It's growing on you then, Steven smiled. I admit, I kind of knew you would feel this way. This caused Craig to blush again. You know, with him saying we're like brothers, he's kind of right. Steven also blushed, but as he looked around with no one in sight, he got back up immediately. I kind of see you as a brother since I never had one. Craig wished Xavier made that up, but for how long he's been with Steven, it gets more impossible to deny it. Me being your only brother must be a force to you, just like you having pink visions because of me. As the two looked at each other after confessing, they went back to the walk back home. They are still uncertain if going to Beach City won't happen, knowing Xavier, Aquamarine, and Ruby could have the advantage if they fuse for real. At the same time, however, their freedom from them tomorrow will do them more favors than harm. Steven will make sure he protects Craig's pink eyes from Kenneth, and keeping his powers away from him will be an obstacle, but it's an obstacle that's worth risking even with kids in the creek around him.